In this episode, Ryan Walsh, founder and CEO of Fairway Finder, shares his journey from a golf enthusiast to launching a tee time marketplace. He discusses the challenges he faced as a non-technical founder, the development of his MVP, and the marketing strategies that helped him build a user base. Ryan emphasizes the importance of content creation and the dynamics of a marketplace that serves both golfers and golf courses. He also outlines his vision for future growth and expansion beyond San Diego. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Welcome to The Range, the podcast where we explore the intersection of passion and business in the world of golf. I'm your host, Ari Ratner, and each episode will dive into the stories of the innovators, entrepreneurs, and trailblazers who are transforming the game we love into thriving businesses. Whether you're a golf enthusiast, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just curious about the business behind the sport, you're in the right place. So grab your clubs and join us on The Range as we tee off into the world of golf entrepreneurship.
Welcome back to The Range. Today we are joined by Ryan Walsh, founder and CEO of Fairway Finder. Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Ari. Appreciate it.
Before we jump into Fairway Finder and how you got there, let's give the audience a sense of your connection to golf when you first started to pick up the sticks and play the game.
Yeah, so my dad, like a lot of people, I'm sure, he's a massive golfer. He grew up in Montana, playing all sorts of tournaments out there. Gosh, I wish I could list off like all the different tournaments he's won and things like that, but there's definitely a lot of them. So yeah, grew up with a dad who played a lot of golf, who's still scratched. He's 65 years old. So just always trying to beat him still to this day. And yeah, kind of had no choice but to get into golf. And then, once you graduate college, it's kind of the natural thing you get into. So for the last 8 years or so, I've been playing a lot of golf.
That's awesome. Well, super excited to get into Fairway Finder. Let's give the audience a brief intro to the business, what it is, and then we could talk about the journey and how you got there.
Cool. Yeah. So Fairway Finder is the first tee time marketplace with all courses in your area on it. So yeah, there's obviously kind of the elephant in the room is golf now. They kind of operate on a different business model where it's essentially a pay to play system with courses. So they have to directly partner with courses if the courses want to be listed. So we kind of went with a different approach that by default gets all the courses into one place. And we think that's very helpful when it comes to booking golf. At least it is for me. And I think it is for others too. So that's kind of the basics of it. Obviously a lot more to it than that, but yeah, probably a good enough intro to start.
For sure. And for the audience, I believe you launched in San Diego, which is where you live.
Correct.
The beauty of this podcast, I hope and think, is that we're speaking with guests that range from existing businesses to businesses that are just starting out. You launched Fairway Finder a month or two ago. Is that accurate?
Yep, just a little over a month ago. I guess we're technically in beta and we're only in San Diego. So definitely at the early stages of it. But yeah, we're officially launched.
That's awesome. And the goal of this podcast is to give other entrepreneurs kind of advice or at least a peek behind the curtain into how entrepreneurs are building their business. So talk a little bit about, how you arrived to Fairway Finder and what that nugget of an idea kind of came from.
Yeah. So you cut out there a little bit, but I think I got most of the question. So yeah, it goes back almost 2 years ago, kind of right after COVID, a lot of new people, playing the game of golf, and it was just really difficult to get tee times. So, kind of out of my own frustration, I kind of started trying to figure out ways to get tee times. And so I was taking lessons with the head pro at a local course here. Kind of out of curiosity, I was like, hey, how many cancellations do you guys get a day? Thinking I might be able to snag a cancellation somewhere or the other. And he didn't know off the top of his head, but he ended up sending me a spreadsheet of their last 12 months of cancellation data. And I ran the numbers, I think I threw it into ChatGPT, had them give me all sorts of analysis. And basically what I found, at least for this course, and I've figured out that it's similar elsewhere, is that they were seeing upwards of 50 cancellations a day. And so that could be one person canceling. It could be the entire group canceling. I actually have some interesting data on what that does look like. But yeah, there's just a ton of turnover because these courses, they have very forgiving cancellation policies. There's no prepayment. So, these people are super proactive. I'm not one of those people. They wake up at 6 a.m, 9 days in advance, whatever it is, they book, their plans change, they cancel, no penalty. And there's just a ton of turnover. So, my thought is like, well, what if we matched up all of those cancellations with the existing demand out there and kind of do so with some technology? I was on a ton of nights just constantly refreshing tee sheets, waiting for for tee times to come available. And I was successful with that. But I was like, what am I doing here? Like, wasting hours of my time, keeping these tabs open. So again, kind of to solve my own problem, but also with the thought that I might be able to commercialize it too. We created a product called Tee Time Alerts, and that launched about a year and a half ago. And that's been pretty exciting. We've had a lot of traction, launched it here in San Diego as well. I think we're across about 20 different cities with that tool. And then kind of throughout that process, I just kind of realized that there's a bigger vision to go after. And yes, the alerting, has a lot of potential on its own, but, because we already had that database of inventory, we're constantly monitoring all these tee sheets, waiting for new tee times to come available. I thought that it would be pretty cool to repurpose that into like a search engine where you could go and search all courses, figure out, what is available, is anything, decent that's available and worth just booking right then and there. And then if nothing's available, then you'd create an alert. So that's kind of where the vision grew to be something much bigger, to actually be that kind of go-to search engine or marketplace for tee times. And then the alerting would just become a feature of that bigger platform.
And how has the reaction been in the first month and a half too?
Yeah, it's been good. So we launched, I think, beginning of November, and obviously still ironing out some of the kinks, very much in beta, but we've definitely got the product into a really cool spot. And I think this month it started to really kind of take off. That chart is finally kind of going up and to the right, and like just the last couple of days, I think we've had been averaging 300 or 400 users on the site every day. So
that's awesome.
Seems like people are finding it. Once they do find it, they're liking it. I think it's a little early for kind of like the retention numbers, but I'm hoping that these people who do find it and use it kind of continue to come back as long as they're, looking to find tee times. That's kind of the goals.
I mean, I think it serves a utility that people will continue to come back. For those in the audience, they may assume that you have a technical background. You built a web app that eventually may become a mobile app, but give the audience a sense of your background and how you are not necessarily a technical founder.
Yeah, very much not technical. So my background is in marketing. I've operated a marketing agency for the last 8 years, pretty much since I graduated college. I went and worked at a big marketing agency, and then I'm very much an entrepreneur at heart. So pretty quickly left to start my own agency. And then, client services takes a toll on you after a while. So kind of just trying to figure out what my next career move was. Loved golf, felt like there's a big kind of gap in the market to go after. So that led me to this. But no technical expertise. So I've had to solve that piece of the puzzle, and I'm still trying to actively solve. Like, I definitely do not have everything figured out, but as time goes on and we build cool products, it's kind of bringing more and more of like the right people to my doorstep. So it seems like we're on the right trajectory and working with more and more good people who are helping me build the product. And that's kind of where we're at now. But there are some funny stories on that too that I can open up on, but I guess I'll end there for now.
No, I mean, would love to hear some of those stories. My next follow-up was, how do you go from, as a non-technical founder, how do you go from back of napkins sketching of the idea to getting that MVP product to push out to the market and see if there's a market for it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, because I guess there's kind of a pro or a benefit of me not being a technical founder, but being an avid golfer, being a marketer, I think I had a really good sense of what the product should look like from a design and UX standpoint and what golfers actually wanted, because, I'm the one in the friend group who is the one who has to book all the tee times, and I'm the one dealing with all the frustration. So I kind of knew exactly like what features were needed and then how it should all kind of look and come together. And then, just solving for kind of the back end piece of it is really what I needed help with.
Talk about that process in terms of how you did solve it from a back end perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's go all the way back. Like, it's kind of funny to kind of see where we started. I'm sure I'll be saying the same thing like 2 years now, looking back at where I am now. But I mean, I really had no idea where to go. Like, I swear all of my friends seem to be in real estate or, I have no technical network at all. So pretty much had to go find someone, brand new to kind of help me with this, and wanted to find someone local here in San Diego. I found this agency that seemed to look pretty good down in downtown San Diego. Called them up, talked to this guy who was, he was an Australian guy who was in San Diego, and he sounded great. He's like, oh yeah, I love the idea. Like, I think we can do this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, sweet. Like, well, yeah, let's do this. And so I think it was like a upfront cost of, I think it was $4,000, $5,000, initial like deposit to get going, which is, a ton of money. I was like, wow, like, this is massive cost, but if I spend this and like get this built, like it'll be worth it. And like,
Yeah.
So fortunately I made that charge with my credit card, which I'm really glad I did. Essentially just, I got completely scammed. This initial guy I talked to, never heard from him again. I think it kind of got outsourced to someone and who knows where, who didn't even speak English, and there was just never any progress with the product. And just pretty much fully got scammed. And I was like, dang, well, like, I could have probably stopped there and been like, okay, I guess, I'm not technical. Like, that makes sense that like, this is just how that went. Like, I should probably, go a separate way. But I've kind of jumped hurdle after hurdle to kind of make this happen. And so from there, what I did, I actually got into Upwork, which I'm like addicted to Upwork now. Like, Upwork is great for finding like, awesome technical talent, all over the world. Found this guy named Aladdin on there. He was $10 an hour. He was based out of Tunisia, which I didn't even know where Tunisia was. It's in North Africa. And so he was awesome. We worked with him, or I worked with him for, 9 months. He built the initial MVP in probably a matter of a few weeks. And so this was Tea Time Alerts back then. He built it, in a matter of weeks. We were able to actually get paying customers probably a few weeks after that. And he allowed me to totally prove the concept, which was awesome. And then, from there, he stayed with me for 9 months. Then he left. He had a startup that he was joining or something like that. But he was great. He kind of, let me prove the concept. And then from there, when he left, struggled for probably like 6 months trying to find kind of other contractors who could kind of replace him. But it was difficult because, people, he built it, he kind of knows the code, and then other people try to come in and they're not familiar with it, or maybe they're just not as good, and kind of like had some turnover of a few people from there. And then, I'm getting too into the details, but
no, it's interesting because the Tea Time Alerts is happening throughout all of this.
Yeah. So Tea Time Alerts was that first like year and a half. And then, probably, I don't know, a little over a year, we started kind of working on Fairway Finder in tandem, but we needed to keep up Tea Time Alerts because it had hundreds of paying subscribers we needed to, continue to service. So that's when once I kind of set the vision for Fairway Finder, I knew I needed to find someone legit and stateside who could really kind of help me set the vision and kind of manage different developers, whether they're offshore or here domestically. But, that's when I started working with a guy named Aaron who really helped me build Fairway Finder for the last like 6 months. And he's been great. I've been told, his code is absolutely beautiful. And like, so over time, like I just kind of continued to find better and better technical talent. And now we feel like we're in a pretty good place with our team that's continuing to grow.
And how did you find Aaron?
Aaron, so I was introduced to him through another contact in the golf industry. There's this company called San Diego Golf Reservation. He had done some work with them. I'd come highly recommended. And he put me in touch and we started working together.
It's always interesting as a kind of one man founder, to then bring in talent that's going to help grow. Talk a little bit about what you were looking for in, and I don't know if Aaron's title is a co-founder, but what you were looking for in a partner to help build your vision, and really set the roadmap for the future of the company.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm still figuring all that out. Like, I don't think it's like, this isn't the end of the story and it's like the happy ending necessarily. Aaron's been super helpful and I think we're trying to figure out exactly what role he would play. And, we have other kind of irons in the fire as well. But really, I think what's really important is having someone who understands the game of golf. And I think if the person developing the product has that familiarity, it just leads to better work. So I think if you can find that and really set that like vision together and get really aligned on kind of what needs to happen, I think that's what I'm looking for and what we're kind of still striving for. It was nice that Aaron had experience in the golf industry. He's not a golfer himself, but is very familiar with the game and how it works, how people book tee times, things like that. So setting that vision for the product is probably like the most important thing. And then hopefully everyone on the team is very familiar and aligned on that vision as well.
Yeah. So putting back on your marketing hat, what are some ways, even going back to Tea Time Alerts, what are some ways that you help build that user base back then than what you're also doing now for Fairway?
Yeah. So my background, like I said, is in digital marketing. So specifically paid advertising. That's really what our agency specializes in. So yeah, really how we were acquiring users and customers was, paid social media ads. So think Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, a little bit of Google ads. And then what was cool to see was even when we kind of turned off the advertising, which we did at points, whether it was cash strapped or maybe something with the product wasn't working, so we didn't want to be pushing it hard at that point, was that there was a word of mouth element that can, was there and continues to be there. So almost like once you kind of build up that initial base of users, maybe with a paid strategy, if the product is good enough, like people are going to tell their friends. And golf, I think, is like inherently really, really solid with word of mouth. I mean, just think about how you golf. Like you're with a foursome, you're with three other guys. You just want to, you want to talk to these guys. You especially want to talk about golf and tell them how you booked this tee time. And so I think there's kind of there's just, it kind of spreads like wildfire if you have a good product in golf, because it's just kind of one of those things that golfers want to share while you're out and about.
Well,
yeah, so that's been an interesting component.
I was going to say, even you want to share your round with golfers who you're not playing with. You have a pretty much, I know a lot of golfers that have their small community of friends that also golf.
Totally.
They'll constantly talk about their rounds. And certainly from your perspective and your business, if they're able to get a last minute tee time at a course that they always want to play, that's going to be part of the story.
100%.
We touched on, before we jumped on the recording, we touched on some things you've been doing just in the last couple of weeks in terms of putting yourself out there, putting Fairway Finder out there. Talk a little bit about how content plays a part, or can play a part, or will play a part in the growth of the business.
Yeah. So, I think there's obviously a gap in the market when it comes to just a tee time marketplace with all the courses. But I also think there's a gap in the market just from like a kind of younger, like tech forward, or, social forward brand to come up who kind of speaks to that younger golfer. And in order to kind of speak to that younger golfer, you need to be distributing, content in the right channels, and not only content, but like the right type of content, like the content that entertains, educates, and really kind of does a good job of bringing people into the fold. So kind of knew how important that was with Fairway Finder and tee time alerts. But yeah, really with Fairway Finder, I've kind of, I'm very introverted by nature, but I'm really getting out of my comfort zone to kind of, create some content. I don't have the money to hire, these creative agencies to kind of do it for me. Like, I'm kind of taking my iPhone, going into the garage, going to the course, wherever it is, and like shooting content myself. And it's a lot of founder led pieces of content, which actually has been really fun. Like it's, was kind of uncomfortable, I'd say at first, but now I'm like having a lot of fun with it. And like, we've had a couple of videos recently kind of go viral on TikTok and Instagram, and kind of seeing a lot of validation from people out there that like, this is a good idea. And there's some of our content also is a little polarizing and seems to ruffle some feathers too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really interesting to kind of get it out there and actually get feedback from random people. It's not my brother or my friend saying, oh yeah, it's a good idea. It's actual like real validation of the idea. And then also, when you get that validation, those people want to use your product. So it's like, you're also getting people to come check out the site and become a user. So it's kind of been a fun thing. And it's actually been, necessary to get the feedback we need and get those initial users.
That's great. Speaking of users, there seems to be two sides of your business: the golfers who are using it on a day-to-day basis, but also the courses that sign up to be a part of your community. How have you gone about, getting courses on the site and app? And then from a secondary question, as you think towards the future and growing outside of San Diego, how does Fairway Finder grow into other cities?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, we are a marketplace, so there's obviously two sides to a marketplace. There's the courses and then there's the golfers. So with our approach, we're kind of fixing the supply side. We created this technology, which was not easy, but we monitor the online tee sheets of all of these golf courses, so we can, be more or less perfectly in sync with the course's tee sheet. And then we show those same tee times on our platform. So we have that side kind of fixed. We actually, it's kind of an, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness model.
Yeah.
And the thing is we're only helping these courses, we're sending them referrals that are booking tee times. And there are some other more malicious types of things like bots that, can book tee times for people. There's major issues up in LA with that, which make it hard because these courses end up kind of putting up measures to guard against, our technology from trying to monitor these tee times. But for the most part, we can get around those every time. But that's kind of how we get the supply side. That's how we get the courses. Eventually, we're going to partner directly with some, or hopefully one day, most courses where we'll kind of have a direct connection and, we'll get those tee times in real time, and there'll kind of be never any issues there. But that's the supply side. And then, the demand side comes from the golfers, and that all comes down to the marketing and, getting what we think is a really unique product in front of golfers who can check it out and hopefully use it. Every time they go to find a tee time.
As you think about your business, and I've spoken with a number of founders and entrepreneurs that sell a physical product, right? And so once that's manufactured and complete, like that's the end of the product. Anything digital is kind of ever evolving. How do you balance the importance of pushing kind of the MVP and beta out there to the world with this ongoing evolution of a continuous improvement when it comes to your product and what you're trying to offer your audience?
Totally. Yeah. So, I've really leaned in, like, a technology startup is very new to me. I came from, a marketing agency, which there's not a lot of overlap there.
Yeah.
And so I've really tried to educate myself on that exact question, when should you launch this? And basically everyone says just get it out there sooner than later and iterate on the product. If you're constantly tinkering with it and spending multiple months or years on trying to get it to a perfect place, you might be building something that people don't even want.
Yeah.
So getting it out there, getting that user feedback, and then just constantly iterating and testing on what features are actually impactful. That's kind of been our mindset. And now that we're launched, we can't kind of go back. We have to iterate and continue to improve. And we have a ton of ideas. I wish I could snap my fingers and have some things done, but we have some awesome stuff coming up in the roadmap that I think is just going to be absolutely game changing. And it's hard for me to imagine any reason why someone would start their search anywhere else for a tee time. So
that's awesome.
I think it's only going to get better. But had to get it out there, had to get users using it, and the feedback has been super good and helpful. So
talk a little bit about that feedback loop. How do you hear from customers or your users? How do you then implement, as things need to change or need to update? Explain the feedback loop and how you guys are capturing that feedback and then putting it towards the product.
Yeah. So before we even launched the product, what I wanted to do was just set up a bunch of interviews with golfers to figure out, okay, how are you actually booking, finding and booking tee times right now? What are the frustrations around that? What are the pain points? What do you like? What do you use? How do you do it? And I probably interviewed, 10 to 15 people. And these are not my friends. These are tee time alerts users. I kind of, looked at some of our most active tee time alerts users and hit them up on email and said, hey, I'll give you a few free months of tee time alerts if we can do an interview. And through that, I recorded those interviews. I forget that I was using this cool, you guys, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but that AI that kind of recaps your meeting, gives you all the notes. So I kind of did it in an organized way. And came away from that with a lot of good feedback. So that kind of established the initial roadmap for the product. And then once we've launched it, we use this tool called Voice Panel, which was recommended from one of the developers I was working with. And it's just a survey on the site. So, someone's on the site for a minute, a little pop-up comes up and says, hey, take 2 to 3 minutes to give us some feedback. There's 7 questions on there. And then we actually get feedback direct from people using the product. And that determines how we kind of iterate from there. And then more recently, just, when going viral I'm probably using that a little too loosely. A few thousand views feels viral to me, but
it's a sliding scale.
On social media, people checking out the product, coming back, they're leaving some good feedback on the product right there, most of which is positive, but some people have been helpful and being like, hey, I'd love to see this, or hey, I want to be this city next. And once you hear, it's I've had 4 people have said Austin, Texas next, there must be something there. Let's do that next. So there's a lot of good feedback coming from a lot of different places. And I think the fire hose on feedback is probably where you'd want to err on that side. So
yeah, it's interesting. In a lot of my conversations, community has been a key part of the guest's business, whether it's leveraging their community to help build their business or leveraging the golf community to inspire them or what have you. Can you give the audience a sense of how the community in San Diego has helped inspire you to keep going and to push and to continue to, try to make Fairway Finder as big as it can be?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of which direction to head there.
Or even if it's a small, like your community of friends and family, just any aspect of community that has helped drive you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's a few different directions I can head. I guess one kind of piece of community. I'm in this startup incubator program called San Diego Sports Innovators.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Walton was the one who actually started this company. He's Hall of Fame basketball player, has lived down, actually he recently passed away, but he lived in, I think, Point Loma, where is it exactly? But it's a really cool startup incubator program that kind of brings together kind of all of the sports-based founders and people who've worked in, big, massive companies who are living in San Diego. And they're just a really cool sports business scene in San Diego. Working with a lot of those different advisors has been super, super helpful. Yeah, I don't know. I just think kind of building a startup, specifically a sports-based startup in San Diego, there's just kind of a really interesting, cool community around that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've just been kind of leaning into that as much as possible and kind of putting myself out of my comfort zone and joining that, going to networking events. And it's pretty cool to build a startup within that community.
Absolutely. As you think about, you've been a golfer your whole life. As you think about golf, playing golf, and then you think about building a business, what are some similarities that you've found in being both a golfer and an entrepreneur?
Man, how about like the roller coaster ride that is a startup, the ups and downs? Like, it's got to be that. I think it's funny, like my wife just doesn't know like what version of me is going to come home. Is it the version that like, oh my gosh, we had an epic day, like ton of users to the site, no problems, like, had a great meeting with, X, Y, and Z person. Like, and then the next day is like, oh my gosh, like we're putting out fires left and right, like something fell through, whatever it is. I swear it's like a daily roller coaster and there's no in between. It's just all extreme highs and some extreme lows. And that is definitely the game of golf.
Yeah.
At least it is for me. So yeah, I think golf and kind of managing that and managing your emotions, which I'd say I'm working on the golf side, has definitely helped on the business side too. And I just think, just trying to remain as kind of even keel as possible. Like you just have to, or you're going to drive yourself crazy. And that is true on both the golf course and in a startup. So a lot of similarities.
So golf, we, as two of us in the business, like we see the evolution of the sport. And as someone like you who've played the sport for a number of years, the game has evolved. How does Fairway Finder sit within that evolution? And as younger golfers are starting, or younger athletes are starting to play golf more, how can a brand and business like Fairway Finder impact the younger generation and get them on the course more and just feed into that evolution of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, I think golf is just behind by about like 10 years when it comes to technology. And I want to be, a big reason on like kind of speeding that up to like where it should be. Like, I feel like the way that I think about it is like, how often do you like call an airline to like book your airline tickets? Like almost like never happens.
Never.
So like I've talked to so many people, even people like kids my age, or not kid, I'm 31 years old. They're saying like I still call the course to book tee times, and I just think there's just like a too big of a hurdle to find and book tee times that it just actually pushes a lot of people from the game. Like I mean, just imagining, or not even imagining, from people I've talked to, there's been so many new people who've come to the game from COVID, and like it's unless you're like, I'm super familiar. I've been golfing for a long time, booking my own attempts for a long time. But like, if you're someone new to the game of golf and you try to figure out like where you want to play, like how you book a tee time, like it's unbelievably complicated and just feels like really gated to like people who are already golfing, already familiar. And like, I think just making that entire process easier, it brings more people to the game. It brings more younger people to the game. I think that we definitely need more young people playing the game of golf. So yeah, I think I want to be a big part of that push, just for like, bringing golf up to speed on like where technology is at with everything else. And yeah, I just think there's a huge opportunity to do that. And that kind of gets me excited.
The comparison to the airline experience is spot on, right? I think, although I was laughing in my head because my parents will still book their flights via calling the airlines, but they're very unique.
Yeah.
They're unique
But
in that way.
generation, our generation doesn't do that at all, but we do for golf. It's like, wait a second, why are we doing it? And it's like, people don't even question it. They're like, well, that's just how I've done it. Like, that's what I'm familiar with. It's like, well, it shouldn't be that way. It should be way easier.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. As we transition to the last part of the session, would love to hear any advice you have for other entrepreneurs as they think about building a business in the golf space, as they think about taking their idea from back of the napkin into production. What are some pieces of advice that you'd want to share?
Yeah, I would say, I guess specifically from like a technology side, I think the product side is pretty different, but I'd say the golf industry doesn't exactly like accept you with open arms. At least that's not what I've found. So like you have to work really, really hard to like network and like, build connections. And like, that's really what's going to be pretty like critical to your success. And I'd say I'm kind of early on in the journey of doing that, but I just never say no to like a coffee chat or a Zoom call, and like just been trying to build my network so hard in kind of a new industry that's completely new to me. I think that's probably my number one piece of advice is just like, know that you're going to have to work really hard to build your network, and your network is everything, especially in golf. So I think that's where you should put a lot of your focus.
That's awesome. Before we let you jump, if you don't mind, we're going to do some quick rapid fire questions just to give the audience the sense of you and your connection to the game. And then we'll let you run. First question, favorite golf course to play on?
Ooh. Okay, so probably Torrey Pines. I got my city card and I get to play it for like $50 and it's pretty good.
What's your best round?
Best round there?
Yeah.
Probably the North course is quite a bit easier. I think I shot a 70 or 71 there one time, which is actually my personal best. So
very well.
Very memorable.
Very good. What's the one piece of gear that you can't live without on the course?
Ooh, probably one of those little coolers that slide right into the side of your bag, kind of in the longer zipper pocket. I put like 6 beers in those, share those with friends. And if it's an afternoon round, I like to have a couple cold beers, and that's pretty critical.
That leads me to the next question. What's your go-to snack or beverage on the course?
Okay, I'm trying to think of a specific beer. Probably the 394. It's a beer that by AleSmith, and they made it for Tony Gwynn. I think that's batting average in like one of his top years. And that beer is just so good.
Local brewery in San Diego?
Yeah, local brewery. And really good kind of pale ale, IPA style beer. And then honestly with snack, I usually eat before golf, so I don't need a snack. I probably should be eating some to keep my focus, but some sort of bar or something like that.
Yeah. What's your proudest moment as a golf entrepreneur so far?
Man, I'd say just like the early journey of finding technical talent to help me build something and actually proving the concept and building something that people would pay for was a very validating and proud moment. Yeah, I'd say that was pretty cool. The kind of the early journey, finding that.
From my perspective, for what it's worth, the fact that you didn't give up after getting scammed in the beginning, I think that's also something you should be really proud of. And to see where Fairway Finder and Tee Time Alerts is today versus that initial experience is, as a fellow entrepreneur, I think is something really inspiring. So I would also count that as one of your top moments, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
As you build Fairway Finder, is there another golf brand that you'd want to partner with to help get the word out?
Another golf brand, man, some of the new like apparel brands coming out in golf are pretty cool. I'm sure you've heard of Malbin Golf.
Oh yeah.
I'm not cool enough to wear their stuff. I just wear the standard polos and look very average Joe out there, but I don't know. They're very cool. I think it'd be cool to do something with them at some point.
Awesome. Yeah, no, they're a powerhouse in the industry. That's it. Ryan, I appreciate your time. It was great to uncover a bit more about Fairway Finder. Let the audience know where they could find you across all the socials and of course, your website.
Yeah. So Fairway Finder, I think it's actually fairwayfinder.io. Fairwayfinder.com was taken, unfortunately, but fairwayfinder.io, I think on social, that's also the domain name. So yeah, find us there and follow the journey. I think it'll be pretty fun and I'll keep everyone in the loop.
Yeah, I'm excited to check out those videos and hopefully the rest of the audience will as well. But appreciate the time, Ryan, and look forward to following along your journey and seeing Fairway Finder in other cities in the future.
Sweet. Well, yeah, thank you, Ari.
All right, take care.